Hey guys, how's it going? So, in the 11th episode of The Bad Batch, we met a new clone, Captain Hauser Ballast. And now you're probably wondering, well, how do I know that his last name was Ballast? We didn't hear that in the show. Well, a Hasbro figure came out, a Black Series 1, recently with Hauser on the box, and on it says Ballast, so there you go. Now, it seemed in the episode that he wasn't as confrontational or aggressive after Order 66, so what was the deal with that? That was one of the first things I noticed, and quite frankly, it was the most interesting part of the show for me. I love the fact that they're really incorporating some of the concepts that regard the clones not executing Order 66. And we see this, we saw this first in Clone Wars Season 7 at the end with Rex, who actually abstained from executing Order 66 for just several seconds in order to save Ahsoka's life and give her a bit of a head start, as we saw the tears streaming from his cheeks. And then, of course, we see it in the Bad Batch with Cut Lawquane, who became a farmer and never really heard execute Order 66. Then we heard from Rex that very few clones were able to actually not be affected by Order 66. So could this Hauser character potentially be one of those that did receive the order but didn't actually get affected by it? Or is it possible that the inhibitor chip is wearing off? But then we can kind of debunk that too. It would be really hard to prove that that's the case because all clones got the order pretty much around the same time. And this really isn't all that far after Order 66, after Revenge of the Sith. This is what, maybe several months at most? My theory is that he never heard Order 66. Perhaps he was stationed on Ryloth to protect the Syndulas and never actually got a beacon signal, much like Cut Lawquane. Perhaps since there was no Jedi on the planet, then he had nothing to execute. Even if he did hear it, there was no treason to the Empire happening at all. It just seems that with the way he mentioned that things are pretty tense at the moment, looking down and almost confused, it seemed to me like he didn't fully understand why things were so uptight with everyone lately. It's almost like he was trying to make sense of everything. And he's like, I don't really understand why everyone is so stressed out lately. He understood the Empire had shifted over to replace the Republic, and I'm sure he heard that the Jedi had committed treason, but he doesn't really seem like he understands the betrayal of the Jedi. He went against a direct code of Order 66, which of course is to report things of possible treason against the Empire. And Hera, which was cool to see her and Chopper, spying on a restricted area would surely cause for him to inform the superiors. Now, Wrecker, who loved Omega like a little sister, was about to terminate her upon having his chip fully activated, and Order 66 taking full effect on him. Hauser would have definitely reported Hera's unlawful spying to Rampart. I think Hauser could be a worthy asset to the Bad Batch, and perhaps give them some insight as to why Order 66 hasn't affected him. It may very well be that he himself is quite confused about Order 66 and doesn't really understand too much about it, and everything going on around him, which is indicative of his whole body language as he says things are tense, as I mentioned. Now, Rampart is another character I want to briefly touch on in this video, not too long, I want to keep this one short. He seems like he's really catching on with how the Empire runs things. He's becoming quite cold and ruthless, and in the beginning when we met him, it seemed like he was kind of an assistant, and he still is. He's, Tarkin's flunky, sort of, so to speak. But it seems like he's really starting to make a name for himself, and he's really starting to embody the energy that is the Empire. Kind of this ruthless, totalitarian, is my way or the highway kind of thing personality, which honestly is starting to kind of rub off as a Tarkin-esque, a Tarkin Jr. Now, I wonder where he is, later on in the story of Star Wars and the galaxy and the timeline. Does he die? Does he end up getting converted, to the rebel side, which I know is kind of a thing that happens sometimes, especially in the games, but I'm thinking that maybe Rampart has perhaps a bigger place in all of this. I think that maybe he'll get captured by the Bad Batch and he'll eventually spill the beans on what is going on, what they want Omega for, and everything in between. As for the clones changing into conscripted soldiers for stormtroopers, I believe this is the very beginning of a possible Kamino uprising. Now, the show has about 5 episodes left, and I find it very hard to believe that we're going to finish this story all in 5 episodes without any further seasons. So I think The Bad Batch is definitely a show that should continue on, and I think we'll have several more seasons. I also don't see them spending so much money and time on the beautiful cinematography and animation and the models that they have created just to do kind of a one and done in the Bad Batch, unless of course they, bring them in some cameos in some other animated shows, and that's fine, but I would really love to see more seasons of this show. I think we're going to end on a huge cliffhanger here, and I think the Bad Batch Season 2 will probably come out sometime next year again, around the same time. So that's my theory and my thoughts on Captain Howzer Ballast, and why he seems so sort of confused and docile and almost like a normal clone. Watching him kind of seemed like just a normal clone from the Clone Wars. Let me know what you guys think. I hope you enjoyed this video and this theory and the limited knowledge that we do have on Captain Howzer Ballast. And not to mention, of course, his sweet colors on his pauldron and his trooper suit in general. That armor really stands out. And no, I don't believe it's the 501st. The 501st had a much darker blue, unless it's, sun faded and all that. And they had a different pattern as well. So I don't know what Legion this is. So maybe that's something you guys could tell me, unless I'm totally wrong and it is the 501st. But I really don't think so. So let me know what you guys think. Thanks for watching this video. I will catch you in the next one. Until then, remember, the Force will be with you always.